Welcome to the Linux Saloon, a place to discuss tech, open source, and where Linux is always on tap. Each show we'll have a talk about a Linux project, like this week, like a distribution, a desktop environment or application. We also chat about news or any variety of topics from the community. Anything that is Linux, tech, and open source related is on the table for discussion. I'm Nate, a Linux, fitness, and vintage tech enthusiast with an almost unhealthy obsession with the OpenSUSE project. And with me today, I've got Eris, Ben, Mr. StormOS dev himself, Rick, who claims to be not a Linux guru guy, but I don't know if that's so fitting anymore. Rick, you're kind of a guy to go to now. Sravan, Jindo, Mark, Ben Fitzpatrick, welcome. This is your first time here. Not sure if you're gonna talking at us, but much appreciated if you do. And Leo, probably, I think he's almost the best buddy of mine now on Pokemon Go. So welcome. So on the docket for today, we'll be doing a distro exploration of StormOS. We're going to check what's on the menu for next week and do a news flight and our last call. But first, what have you been doing in Linux or tech? Sravan, you said you have doing some 32-bit chroot and 64-bit. What is this? Does this sound like some kind of voodoo that you're pulling off in the tech world here? What are you doing?
So again, I run a Linux on ARM, mostly 64-bit. Arch ARM is 64-bit based. For most part, they have 32-bit ISOs too, but I, for the most part, run 64-bit. But I'm experimenting with running maybe like Wine or something. I'm not there yet, so I'm trying to prepare stuff to run like more 32-bit things and 64-bit. But for normal Arch, there's multi-lib, but for ARM there isn't.
Okay.
So probably one way to overcome is to like bootstrap like a chroot with 64-bit and see if it works. I've been trying since yesterday and it sort of worked. I just packstrapped with like in packstrap you can choose a mirrored list and like a Pacman configuration to create a chroot. So what I did was instead of using the 64-bit pacman.conf, I just used 32-bit pacman.conf, changed the architecture, changed the mirrors a little bit, and now it's like, okay, I can packstrap as 32-bit in like a folder, and I'm able to chroot into it. I'm able to install stuff. Vim is working, NeoVim is not working. I'm just experimenting with what I can do. I was able to build and install Box86, which can be used to run x86 apps on ARM. So that was the main goal, but I haven't found any app which I can run, but I'm just beginning to explore like running multi-architecture stuff in like a single install.
The ultimate intent then is to be able to run x86 based 32-bit software in ARM. Is that kind of the goal?
Yes.
Okay.
So I can already run 64-bit. So there are two wonderful projects by the same person. I forgot his name. You can search for Box64 and Box86. So Box64 allows you to run x86 64 apps in ARM. Like you don't need a QEMU. You can just say Box64 and that app name, and it's a hit or miss. Some things work, some things don't work, but for the most part, many apps run. Again, that's only for 64-bit. So if you want to run some 32-bit, you can do that with Box86, but you need to run in a 32-bit ARM install, like Raspberry Pi OS or other stuff, which is like mainly 32-bit. So in that, you can run directly Box86 for 32-bit app. But again, I have a 64-bit system, so only way to install Box64 in my system is to create a 32-bit chroot and install it there.
Cool. How successful is it so far? Have you been able to do you have some things that are actually working and functioning in the way you intend, or is it still a work in progress?
It's a work in progress. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a long-term project for me.
Okay.
Slowly trying to experiment think the ultimate goal is to get Wine running on ARM.
Okay.
Like some people have done it in, again, Raspbian and ARMbian, but it's very hard to get that in Arch ARM because it's mostly 64-bit. So if you want Wine, you need both libraries, and there's no, as I told you, there's no multi-lib in Arch ARM. So it's a long-term project, and someone else is also doing something, achieving something similar, but not through Box 86, Box 64, but something else. We are working parallelly to get like basically 32-bit support in our 64-bit installs.
So very cool, Sravan. Is this something you're going to be blogging about then, on maybe on your website as you make progress? No.
No,
Okay.
I don't have time for it.
Oh, I was hoping you'd like.
Project too.
Okay, I was really hoping that you would be maybe like telling us how you're going about this. As things progress and as you have some exciting things.
No, that would be documentation. Nobody needs that.
Yeah.
Well, I know,
Like,
but
what
it's
I'm doing is highly experimental. I am not sure it's working or not. Like I didn't know I could backstrap a 32-bit and 64-bit. Someone said it'll just work. Your processor supports it. That's it. Like I had no guidance. Someone just said, okay, try. It might work because your processor supports it. There's no software support. I'm like, okay, let me do backstrap. Then I experimented with how to actually do that. I can do 64-bit and 64-bit, but I never tried 32-bit. So again, this is all experimenting, trying new stuff. So it's a whole lot of work in progress. Even if I write about it, probably very few people in the world will understand. It's like niche. It's like very, very niche stuff.
I think
Like no one will actually
so.
care.
I understand what you're saying, and I want to mostly respectfully disagree with you, because I enjoy reading those things where someone goes through like it's like a journey, seeing them go through the journey and like reading their blog posts and going through that. There's actually quite a few people either videos or blog sites that I do follow on that go through like when they're trying to figure stuff out. There's some really neat, like especially like in the retro computing area, I think there's some really neat discovery and people working on different projects and such. So do what you want, but I think documenting that and sharing your adventure, I think a lot more people would be interested in that than you might expect.
I think if I get it working, it will probably go to our wiki, our ARM wiki. Because again, if it is actually working, then most people will be interested in the solution, right? Like, how do you actually do it? But now it's like huge work in progress. By the time, if it works, it'll go to our wiki. So that's, again, things like this, like these are guides, right? Wiki is the best fit. This for
Right.
that, probably not my blog. More people can read.
Sure. But then there's the personal insights of Sravan that maybe someone might want to read about too, getting into the mind of Sravan, you're going to build that fan base out there. You laugh, but why not? Come on, why not?
Again, what I do is very niche. I don't think, again, there are that many people interested in that.
There are so many niches out there, and you'd be surprised how many people are interested in there's a niche of a niche of a niche of a niche, and you'll have like a huge group of people that are into a thing that you never thought they'd be into. But there are people who are into the Zilog 80 processors. Why? I have no idea, but people like it. There's just these things exist. So anyway,
Okay. Yeah. I'll look into it.
just think about it. Even if they're just short little blurpets, just kind of talking about the things you're going through and your like where you're stumbling. You never know. You might get somebody that reads it and actually helps you out with it. You might find people that are interested in the exact same thing, and actually can help provide some other insight. So you never know. Or I could be dead wrong. Who knows?
I think the good thing is at least I know some people in my niche who I can at least throw ideas out of. Like that's how I was able to at least know, okay, this is an option. Water tide is an option because I at least know some people who are relatively in my niche. So that's good actually. Like, but again, like writing something and getting them to comment also is a good way to know more people in the same niche.
Make sure you call it blurpets though.
Yeah. I call everything that I do a blathering, because if you look at what blathering means, basically it's like spewing nonsense.
Is I can write my blog, my it's on GitHub anyway. You can add the blurpets or whatever vocabulary as a pull request, and I can merge it. And in like 5 minutes, the blog is updated.
There you go. That. I like it. Whatever you do, I'm going to like it. I promise. Well, awesome. Well, keep us updated on how that goes. I look forward to to further progress. Hope you'll share it. Maybe it could be part of a community free pour. More on that later on in the housekeeping, but I'll bring that up again. So I want to share a little thing that I'm working on. It's not really Linux or tech related exactly, although it's for tech. I am building a mini gaming rack. It's a couple of years ago, maybe almost 3 years ago now, I built the house I used to live in, it's about 6 foot tall gaming rack, so I could put all my systems that were in the living room in one spot, and I could switch between them, and it'd be really convenient. So we just pick up and play whatever we want on the screen, nice and easily. Well, since I moved, it doesn't fit in the living room in in a similar spot because where the TV is and how much space there's against that wall. So I am building a mini gaming rack right now. I'm using basically all the same dimensions, all the same numbers that I used, the whole math thing, agenda that we talked about earlier. So it's going to be exactly 2 feet wide, and the shelves inside will be 22.5 inches. But for those that are in the metric, I don't know what that is, but 22.5 inches, because you got to have space for the shelves to sit. But something I did differently this time was, I didn't know it at the time, but there are jigs you can buy, like a device, so I can put the holes properly spaced and then properly depth and everything with the right tools and everything. It's really very neat that they have all these things. It cost me I think $25 to buy this little thing, and then I can drill all the holes. So all the shelves will be adjustable and a complete up and down. I could probably even add shelves if I needed to. And I just did the first coat of poly, finished the first coat of poly today on it. I'll be assembling it tomorrow, and hopefully by next week, when we talk again, I will actually have it employed. Clean up that area of the living room because the kids keep adding things to it, and it's a kind of a mess. So I'll probably do a little YouTube short on it because I don't think it's really worth a full on video. So I'll probably just do a little YouTube short and it's kind of before, during, after. So about a minute long video.
Do you use 3D printing for this stuff, or how do you make these things?
I have what do you mean? I'm sorry, question again?
You use 3D printing for this stuff, right?
No, this is actually made out of wood.
Wood. Oh, okay.
Yeah, so wood. It's I don't have a 3D printer that can do 16 inches by 22.5 for shelves. So not yet, anyway. Maybe someday. So I'm doing that in the Bay Area behind me. So I'm pretty excited about having that done. It's part of my improve the gaming time initiative because switching and setting up another game system I think is kind of annoying. You having to do that. There's that lost time you could be doing actually playing the games as opposed to either finding the things and the parts, then hooking it up and then taking it down. I want to get rid of all that business. And do I care if someone comes over and sees 7 different video gaming systems in the living room? No, it's for the kids. It's for the kids. It's for the kids. So that was my little adventure, my ongoing adventure this week. I was hoping to be more done with it today, but life got in the way. Now we're going to head off into our main topic, which is doing a distro exploration of StormOS. Now we have some rules here, and these rules are very important. The intent here is to talk about the different aspects of the operating system and discuss the experiences from using it. So this is a discussion that should be objective and constructive. We don't want any non-objective opinions like this is garbage, because that's not really helpful to the developer. Who's here? Hello, Ben.
Hi.
Rather, if you say, I wish it had a specific feature, or I really need this feature to allow me to do, fill in the blank, that is benefiting the conversation. The point is to highlight the positives, but not necessarily ignore the lowlights of the project, because we do want to remember this is a labor of love for some, specifically Ben, and some others. So let's not poo-poo on it, because that's just not beneficial.
And I could say the same about other distributions, because there are some ones out there that I'm personally not a fan of, but that doesn't mean that I hate on it.
Right. Exactly. There's no sense in hating on anything, I think.
Yes, agreed.
All right. So Eris, you did a poll on how is StormOS exploration going. So I don't know if you'd like to take it away.
Okay.
Take it away, Johnny.
So the 29.4% of people said it's going okay. 29.4% of people said not interested in doing this exploration. 23.5% of people said not having a great time with it. 5.9% said I'm unable to do the exploration. 5.9% said not interested in doing the explorations in general. And 5.9 said other, and I said to reply. They actually did reply, and they said not able to get to display video after installing using KVM virtualization and Spice protocol.
So first, let's get to a little bit about history, or a little bit about StormOS, and then I couldn't find any history on it out there. So Ben, I'll have you fill in the rest of the class on the history of StormOS, but we'll start off with what I got right now.
Okay.
So that whole if Linux user space were to do your history of your distribution, they wouldn't have much to go on right now.
Probably not. No.
So StormOS is a Linux distribution based on Arch and Debian developed by Ben Fitzpatrick, who's right there, with contributors by Silent Robot, Seeker, Razor 1981, Yugomaster 88, and more. So you have an XFCE version and a KDE version, and they have some little notes on there about setting up the installation.
Okay.
So that's all I have. So Ben, tell us about when did StormOS become a thing? Like, when did it start? What was the formation of it? When did
it originally started as a project that we were branching off from Manjaro. Kudos to Matthew Moore for that idea. And he and I originally started this out as Arch by Matthew Moore. And we eventually found out, after doing a 5-hour live stream of development, that we had some complaints from the Arch developers and the team and their team about the naming convention. So we went back, changed the wallpaper, changed everything theming wise, and we called it Hackman Linux for a long time. And then, due to some in real life problems that he faced, we had some team changes from him and I to StormOS. And it was around 2019 or 2020 that happened. And hence, StormOS came around, and we brought on Silent Robot, Razor, who did the marvelous wallpapers, by the way, and the start menu artwork, etc. And as time went on, Yu-Gi-Oh! Master, my great buddy Ricky, came on, and a lot of others, and hence we have what we have now. We started with the XFCE edition purely, and that has grown into what it is now, as has the KDE edition. Now, the KDE edition was my buddy TJ's idea, and it's stayed ever since. And we've kept that going. However, KDE faced some bugs as we went on in some virtual environments like VirtualBox and other places. It started to crash, and hence we had to take it away for a little bit. But KDE seemed to work again after a while. So yeah, that's kind of what StormOS has come to be. Will hopefully continue to be as time goes on. So
what was the spark, like the initial that said I must do this? What was the drive? Because you said you kind of broke away from initially Manjaro.
Yeah.
And so there was
something. Matt was, for a long time, he was running his own Manjaro spin, and oddly enough, it stopped working on his hardware. So we decided to build something that could work on his hardware, and for a long time it did, but his printer stopped working in Arch, so he broke away from the team, like I said, and I kept it going. And I love Arch. It's a great system in my opinion, and we wanted to build something that was initially going to help him out. But as it kept going, I said, this is going to be, in my opinion, a good idea for those who come over from Windows or Mac, and they like Linux, but they want something that's a little bit more up to date in software, and that's not, so far behind like, Debian or not held back like Manjaro or something like that. So I said, okay, I'm going to keep this going, and then that seems to have been something that people like. So
Well,
that's
very cool.
kind of the drive behind it is something that's, easy for people, but has bleeding edge system software. So yeah.
Gotcha. So you have a KDE plasma spin and an XFCE spin. I guess that spin's not a good word. ISO is
No,
available.
it's a remix. Yeah, of Arch.
Remix. So
Yeah, I guess you could call it that. Yeah, it's my take on Arch in a newbie sense of presence.
right, I got you. Well, excellent. So I guess here's the part we're gonna go right into the setup process, installation, however you want to call that. So
Yeah, the install process.
the install process. So it's a live CD image. At least the XFCE one was that
Yes.
I tried. And
Yeah.
and so that's nice. It boosts into a live image. And I just want to comment that I think it booted up like now I don't have like the fastest of systems, like an
Not the
i5 10th gen
fastest by
system, but
any stretch,
I think it was
no.
probably like 6 seconds, 8 seconds, something like that. I mean, it was really, really
6 to 8
fast.
seconds, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it booted up very fast. So what was it that you did to ensure such a quick boot up time?
Well, we used ZST compression
Okay.
because originally we were using XZ, which is a little bit slower, but now we've changed it to ZSTD, which we felt was, kudos to Simon again for that. And we changed it to ZST because it's a heck of a lot faster. And we decided that, it would be increased boot time and increase a lot of back-end things that would help keep it, more smaller and faster. So
Gotcha.
that's one example of how we got it to be quicker booting wise. And so
Now, for those of us on the panel here, did anybody have any troubles or challenges?
Yep, I did have issues. I downloaded a ISO from last week, and again, when I was trying to set it up under VMware, I ended up I was able to boot the live. I did the install. That went fine. It was upon the reboot that you would get to black screen with just a couple of lines, and then wouldn't boot any further. I did get the latest that you mentioned on the XFCE, and comes up with a live user prompt. The password, I don't know what it is. So,
well, I can comment about that, Mark. The password is not there for live user. It's just you change it to XFCE, login, boom, done. Now, the thing is, why in a VM it acts funky, I don't know. I will have to go back and maybe change it back to LightDM and find a way to get rid of the lightdm.conf for the auto login, because right now if I change it from without auto login, LightDM just doesn't load worth a dang. So I can't figure out how to fix that yet, but I am working on that. So
all right, cool. But yeah, so far, I mean, to the point that I got, the live CD did work, and
yeah, so
and
that's
I
a
look
good
forward
thing.
to I'll try the rest that you mentioned, and then
Yeah,
look forward to
because
trying
I
that one.
tested it with LXDM, it loads up fine. You just have to change the session from default to XFCE. You should be good.
So one solution is that you don't enable LightDM for the live user. You use an auto login from Getty. I can show you how to do that.
Yeah, we'll
And-
do that after the show, Sravan.
Yeah. It's like you enable LightDM during the Calamari step. You don't enable it before. So that way, I think this can be solved pretty easily.
Yeah, we'll worry about that after the show, but yeah.
I thought the installer was very nice. You had the Calamaris install.
Yeah.
Although I did have an issue when I selected, on my initial attempt at installing, I put Telegram desktop, Discord, and I didn't know what Deluge was, so I just
That
checked
was
it.
a torrent client, actually.
Okay. Well, I selected those, and then it got stuck at 84%.
Well, that's because when it's installing packages, it gets hung there for some odd reason, and it just takes a while to install those the packages people select.
Okay.
I don't really have a good answer for why that happens, but It just sits there during the Pac-Man part for some effed up reason.
And then I toggle the log, and it just says start calamaris. So
yeah, we haven't. My friends who helped me with this and I have not found a way to remedy that yet.
So I'm just saying it'd be cool, even if maybe you had another. And I don't know how. I don't. I've never created a distro, nor do I ever actually really want to.
It's okay.
But it seems like if you had some method of showing like what's happening, maybe like it's like gave like a little
progress log. Yeah.
Just saying like unpacking this or installing this, whatever. And even if it's one of those like little I think Zipper does it. I think maybe even there's some other package managers. They have like goes like hyphen / pipe / hyphen, kind of like a spinning thingy in the terminal. That might be helpful just to show that it hasn't actually frozen or some indicator.
We'll look into that in the future ISO, yeah. But right now we haven't found a way to figure that out yet.
Yeah. So I had to reinstall it and then
not pick any packages. Yeah, for some reason we don't have a real log that we can indicate what's happening during install and whatnot. But
I got you. There's got to be something out there, I imagine, for that.
Yeah.
So, but then I ran into an issue when it booted up that I got an error, and keep in mind also I didn't download the later ISO that you guys had available, but it said the light display manager. It says failed to start light display manager, and then it basically hung there.
Light DM, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
so
LXDM seems to be working. It's just I have to make a config file that actually points it to XFCE so that way people don't get confused.
I mean, after install, it wouldn't start at all. So I got stuck at that point.
Yeah. Well,
I guess you remedied that. I'm told.
Right. Well, like I said, after the show, Sravan and I will fix light DM somehow. So,
excellent.
Yes.
So for those that did get it up and operational, what other applications did you install?
I know Rick got it up and running.
Yeah. I installed Telegram and also installed LibreOffice, not LibreOffice, but LibreWolf, the browser.
Okay.
And I think that's pretty much, except for one other little program, Escape. I think it's the only programs installed on it, but they all ran fine. Matter of fact, I just while we were talking, I just installed the XFCE version of it, cut it up, and installed a Libre. No, I didn't install LibreWolf on it yet, but I installed Telegram on it so I could post the screenshot of on Telegram.
Cool. Since I didn't get to experience it, what do you use for installing software? Like, is there do you have a GUI?
It can be either done through terminal or through PAMAC. So yeah, we include the PAMAC package manager as well as it can be used through Pacman. Now we do include a couple of bash aliases to help with that, like install for Pacman-S and Y install for yay install, stuff like that, So, and we also have some aliases to help with updates, things like that. There is also a StormOS system tool, which has seen a lot of back and forth changes, and Rick showed a bit of that on his show earlier. So if you want to see everything about that, do go check that out, because he kind of shows all the features and functions of that.
Okay. So PAMAC, so it's a familiar application for anybody who has used Manjaro, essentially, can then use this.
Yes, if you need any help with the StormOS system tool, that is definitely something to check out. Yeah.
Also, it's not as critical in a Arch environment, but you can also Flatpaks are installed out of the box and enabled.
Yes,
that's nice.
You can just start typing away on it.
Yes. And at one point, I also want to stress that we had over 6,000 downloads of the distro at one point.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I just got the Plasma version up right now.
Okay.
And I really like the background you used. Where did you get that graphic?
Oh, the default background?
Yeah, they like a little rocket ship with little guys coming out of it.
Oh, that. I think that's actually, I think that's the actual KDE
Default.
wallpaper that comes by default.
Oh, is it?
But I
Yeah.
think it is. Yeah.
I've
But if
seen
you
it
go
other
if you
places.
go to user share backgrounds StormOS, you might find more wallpapers that you can play around with and check out.
I was gonna
'Cause-
say that background Rick posted on Telegram. I really like that. That's awesome.
Yeah, thanks.
Oh, it came in the background.
Yeah, my buddy TJ Wolf actually contributed some of those wallpapers a while back, so kudos to him for that. And also, Razer helped design the Storm-based wallpapers.
Now the logo you're using right now, it looks like the Arch logo, but with Storm in front of it. Is that?
Yeah, Razer did that.
Okay.
And that was him just messing around with some wallpapers, and we also have a Storm church-looking wallpaper too.
Mm.
Yeah, there's a lot of different wallpapers that he did that I put in there. So,
They were all pretty cool though.
Yeah.
what were you saying, Sravan?
So the icon pack that you're using in Plasma, is that the new?
That's the
Plasma
surfing icons.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that your or something you chose?
No, we forked it from the AUR. We have a lot of
Oh, okay.
we have a lot of AUR apps that we've put into a GitHub repo that we maintain every now and again. We haven't developed like a script or anything to help keep those patched, but or updated. But we will look into making that at some point.
Okay, that's cool. Well, I think it's neat. It has its own distinctive look, which is nice, using the Breeze Dark
Yes.
Plasma style, the global theme, and that's nice. I like that. And I think the wallpaper that Rick shared, I think that's absolutely fantastic. I think you should probably make something like that your default, like when you go to in the live session.
Yeah.
That would be very cool if you did that.
We've tried to make the KDE version have a StormOS stock wallpaper, but for some reason I just couldn't figure that out right now, and I'll try and do that in like one of the next ISOs and see if it works.
I think if you check the global, if you modify the global theme, that you can
Yeah.
bundle it in there.
Yeah, I'll work on that at some point, but because I know Matthew had a thing called Titan Linux where he actually figured that out, but I have yet to figure out how he did that. And I know Zero actually got Dark Zero actually got his Zero Linux wallpaper working somehow, but I'll have to go back and check with him how he did that, because I know he helped me at one point with mine and said that, oh, this is how you do it. So I'll have to figure out in a Discord message with him how I figured that out. So yeah, but
Yeah,
that should
I
be
think
coming.
we should
in
mention for the recording. Didn't you warn us last week? Don't use a Debian download at this time.
Actually, that is no longer relevant because
Okay.
the Debian version should be fixed now, and that should be good to go if you guys want to check that out too.
Oh, thanks for the update.
I've actually got it installed on my Ace server here.
Yeah,
Debian version.
Rick and I did a podcast about that too, and yeah, it should be good to go now.
We did one, it's hidden though.
Yeah, it's on the website if you want to go check that out. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also that one does also use the Calamares installer, and it also has a slimmed down version of the StormOS tool as well. But
Well,
yeah,
That's very cool.
Yes. So yeah, both editions are up and running, and they're pretty good. Now I will say the light DM issue, like I said, should be taken care of after the show at some point. No ETA on that, but we will fix that as we go. That should that's really about as far as I can take it for now. So yeah.
Oh, that's great.
And if there's any other questions, throw them my way.
Well, I want to welcome real quick Prophetic. Thank you for joining. I don't think I welcome Swift either. Welcome. And then also Adam, he popped in. Also, thank you
not
for
here.
Adam's
Oh,
not
hello.
here. He's only here in spirit, apparently.
Yeah, it's all right. There's
His AI is here.
His AI is
Hey,
here,
Adam.
which was short, probably a very short program also.
How you doing, Adam?
Got him. Hey, how's it? I'm doing all
Yeah.
right, man. How's you doing? Good job on the distro.
Thanks. But yeah, like I said before you popped in, Adam, we have a light BN bug that Sravan and I are gonna squash after this, because for some reason, like I said, it auto loads to live user on the live ISO, but when I take that away, it totally craps out. So I don't know. I tried throughout the week to fix it, but it didn't exactly work.
It did once. I got it to load once.
Yeah,
And I don't understand why it worked once.
Yeah, only
I
once
haven't-
did that help.
Yeah, it worked once. And then I ran a program, I don't know what is. It was in multimedia. It was spelled like M-Y Uzi or
Oh
something.
yeah, my Uzi, the streamer app.
Yeah, then the thing just shut off. It was like,
Yeah,
I might
it's
as well
a,
pull the plug.
Yeah, my buddy Seeker, who also is a team member, said that I should include that app. Now, I don't know if that app has had any updates since I built it, but I might just need to update that. I don't know. But
Now, are you running your own repos at all, or is this all just pulling directly from Arch?
we do have a GitHub repo that I maintain every now and again. Like I said, that's got a lot of forked AUR apps in there.
Okay.
And we don't have a script to maintain the package builds for that right now. I mean, we used to, but things have changed so much that it's not relevant anymore. So I have to come up with a new script for that. So we have to come up with a better script for that kind of.
Okay.
But I'll worry about that later. But yeah, we have a repo. We're using repoctl to maintain the GitHub site for that, and we're also using repoctl to maintain the database for that. And we have yet to find a script that actually updates the packages themselves.
So is there any issue of, let's say you don't update the Archway frequently enough? Is it going to cause issues?
Well,
if like
I
if
would
you...
say if you keep it up to date, like every, few weeks or a month, you should be okay. But knowing Arch, how often things can go, I would keep it updated at least once a day, maybe, because you never know when you're going to get a package update, and that's why I include the PAMAC AUR helper or the PAMAC package helper, because it might be beneficial to keep that running at all times, so that way you get a pop-up when you have an update. Now, I would say, like Esnix always says, if you don't update through PAMAC, I haven't noticed any slowness in that, but you never know. So I would say it's better to update through the terminal using the shortcut that I have, pupd and yupd. So that way it's quicker to update that way, I've noticed.
So then,
So yeah, this is designed to be Arch as easy as it could be.
so if it requires a terminal, it's probably not for the new Linux user then. Probably
No. I would say that if you're a noob coming to this, definitely use PAMAC to do all your admin stuff if you want. That's the way to go about it.
Gotcha. Well, very cool.
All right.
Now, so Jinda expressed his areas of difficulty. I don't know, Rick, did you have any areas that we found difficult with StormOS that you maybe want to identify that we haven't identified?
Let's see. Well, I think we mostly fixed it now, but the backgrounds was one issue when you went to XFCE. You had to either go into a terminal or something, or move the backgrounds from a subdirectory to the background directory, and also, or you could do you could move them yourself, or you could go through the clicky thing, hit other, all that kind of stuff, till you found the right directory to point them towards. So we created a little script to do that for you.
Yeah.
You just pop it in and it automatically loads. And I just tested out on this XFC did yesterday, and it seems to work. Yay.
Yeah.
So
He also made a a desktop
Yeah.
file that we
Main
have an
RC.
auto start that actually helps with that.
So yeah, it seems to work. Because now you can just go to backgrounds and they're there.
Yes, exactly.
So on the Plasma version, I didn't notice that the backgrounds were bundled in there.
Different there, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're in the same folder. So what I might do is in the future, I might in like the November ISO, I guess, we will include that same script into the wallpapers for the KDE edition as well.
Okay. I think you probably put like just like symbolic links to wherever you store them.
Yeah,
Yep.
because what we'll do is we'll change the we'll add that same script into the KDE edition and just put it in that one's auto start. Excuse me as well. So that way it defaults to the StormOS one.
You could also, just an idea, you can take it or leave it, but if you want to include those images for anybody to use that runs KDE, you can actually make that as part of the KDE look or whatever it is. I can't remember exactly what it's called. I have to look it up now. But where right in KDE you can actually install additional wallpapers. So I just did a look for StormOS on that one, and I didn't see yours pop up, but I got another Storm that I can put on there. So
yeah, that's okay. Yeah, it's a Storm remake that you're looking for. That's the one that I usually make default.
So anyway, that's something to think about too. You could share those with the wider Plasma users.
Yeah, I'll probably put them in the I'll probably put them on the KDE store at some point, just for people who want to try them
out.
the
KDE store. There we go.
Yeah, I'll probably upload them there and see if people like them or not.
Yeah, that'd be great. You should do that. That'd be awesome.
Sure. That way, if they're on another Arch distro or another non-Arch distro, they can try them out. Yeah,
that'd be great.
All right.
So, any other thoughts that someone has they want to fire off toward StormOS? Speak now.
I just had a question about tap to click on the Plasma version. I noticed it wasn't enabled. Maybe I don't know if it was my hardware or if anyone else had that. Was there a specific reason or?
Seems to work for me.
I didn't really notice that, but I can go back and enable that if desired. I mean, that shouldn't be a problem.
I couldn't even turn it on, so it must be my hardware then.
Yeah, I don't think I enabled that, but I can go back in the KDE edition because I actually have it installed on another laptop next to me. And what I'll do is I will go back and enable that if you want me to. I have no problem doing that at all.
That's cool.
Right.
But I like the wallpaper, the StormOS wallpaper.
It's the StormOS wallpapers are a labor of love from my buddy Razor, like I said, and he does that every now and again. So if you got any wallpapers requests, hit him up on Discord, and I'm sure he'll help you out.
Hint: the Debian version of OS actually has more wallpapers.
Than this one. Yeah.
Yeah.
And those wallpapers come from my friend Matthew Moore. He has a obsession of wallpapers. So
very good wallpapers all around. That's one of the things I like about the distro.
Yeah, is that we forked a lot of his wallpapers. Yeah.
And it works usually.
Yeah.
Whatever it takes.
Yes. So that Debian Moon is something that he spent a lot of hours on, and I thought, what the hey, I'm going to use that one.
Yeah, why not? I didn't try the Debian one. I didn't see a link to download that. Is that some
that
super
is
secret?
Actually something I recently added.
Okay.
Nate, so if you want to download that, definitely take a look at that too.
Cool.
Yeah, it's at the bottom.
And I used and speaking of that, I actually used a live script or a live build script that Esnix developed that I just hacked on and turned into something that I use every now and again.
I would probably be more apt to use Debian over the Arch version because I'm very lazy when it comes to making sure my systems are updated.
You're fine. That's fine.
I'm kind of terrible about that.
Also, I forked his easy admin tool and put that in there because with that you can upgrade to testing if you want, or you can install a backported kernel and latest Firefox.
No, I was asking, what do you do for your updating for OpenSUSE then? If you're lazy, do you have a script or?
Nope.
The exact same question. I had the exact same question.
So my main laptop, probably once a week, I'll get to it. This machine here, I'll do it every Friday. This way I have Friday morning, I'll do updates. So if anything breaks, if anything breaks, then I can get to it before Linux Saloon, and then
Interesting.
if which I nothing's really broken. I think I haven't had any issues in a while. I don't remember when. And then I don't do it every week, but pretty close to every week on this machine here. My internet is not the fastest, so I have to. I can't update more than one machine at a time. As far as like the kids' computers for school, I'll probably do it once a semester, essentially. So I'll probably do it again in January. I'm not going to worry about it unless I'm going to add additional software. I won't update it.
Did you put them on Leap?
Nope, they're on Tumbleweed.
A Tumbleweed too? Oh, okay.
Yep. And maybe I'll get to it in a month. Like every once in a while I'll do it. But yeah, I'll try and get it like before the next semester I'll start it. And then my server is about every 6 weeks or so I'll probably get to it. So they have different cycles that
Wow.
yeah. So I don't have to worry. It doesn't break though. Like it's not. I don't use Arch as much as Sravan likes to say. Otherwise, I use the only Arch system I have that uses any Arch bits is SteamOS, but it doesn't use Arch. Not the whole Arch system. It uses parts from Arch. So yeah, Sravan, it's not Arch. And then as far as
No need to be shy. You're using Arch.
I joke around saying OpenSUSE Tumbleweed is the way Arch should have been.
well, OpenSUSE Tumbleweed isn't really a rolling distribution, really. It's actually a very fast static release system because it uses snapshots.
So what you're saying is SteamOS is the way that Tumbleweed behaves more or less.
The way.
You could say, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, you could say.
They figured it out. They figured it out.
They did. They figured out how to use Arch properly, essentially. You know, not the Arch way, but to use Arch technology
The OpenSUSE way.
Yeah, the OpenSUSE way. Which why they didn't just use OpenSUSE, I have no idea. Who knows? Probably because it's another company. I imagine you probably want to be because Arch is not a company. They don't want to, whatever. But anyway, yeah. So I don't have I'm very lazy. My other laptop here actually had been off for quite a while, and so it didn't have its last update since like May, and I just did an update on that and didn't have any problems. So anyway, so that's how I do that. But enough about me and my poor sysadmin habits. I want to say thank you, Ben. I appreciate getting the opportunity for you to share StormOS. I will say that my KDE experience with StormOS with Arch was a lot better than the XFCE version.
That's okay.
Seems to be. It seems to be more. Well, it booted up after I installed it, so that was.
Yeah, well, that's fine.
That's a big win right there. I do appreciate the work you're doing in it. That's you. I hope you continue with it because I think you need to. I believe. Feel free to disagree. Anybody here in the panel. But I believe that technology, like software development, distribution development, whatever, I think all of it is kind of is a form of art. And I don't necessarily, when people say, oh, should there be another distribution, should be another application, another desktop environment? Yes, I think there should be because I think it is an artistic expression. And I think that what you put it together, you assemble it, it's a recipe that satisfies some desires within you. And I think that absolutely you should continue doing this as long as you have the drive to do it.
Yeah.
As long as you see, as long as it benefits you, I think you should continue to do it because it is an artistic expression, and I believe that people should express themselves artistically, however that is. And we have, a great blessing of having awesome technology in this day and age where we can express ourselves,
of course,
with technology. And so I absolutely implore you to continue doing this. Be welcoming of others, be welcoming of input. Don't be like some developers and drive people away. But always, even if someone gives you a bad idea, just tell them thank you, and then leave it at that. Yeah. Because I think that you want people to feel welcoming.
Speaking of bad reviews, we actually had one on the SourceForge page once. I just said thank you for the feedback, left it at that. But
yeah, who cares?
We left it. This will continue for a long time, and I don't know. I can't say how long in the long run, but we will keep it going as long as possible. So,
I have a question about StormOS. How do you handle updates? Are they just the Arch updates that get pushed into it, or do you stage updates? Do you provide hot fixes? Do you do any of those?
Well, every month or two, we push out new updates through the ISO. but we also keep the updates going through package updates in the repo, things like that.
So my only problem with StormOS is that it doesn't look and feel like Puppy Linux. And I think that is the biggest drawback. We need to get some
Okay.
Joe window manager in there.
Joe
and-
WM.
There- So
Just kidding.
he could create if Ben really felt the inkling to create a puppy version of it. That's absolutely possible because there are scripts. I don't know if there's one for Arch, but I know that you can probably modify the scripts that exist. That basically, a puppy is you can make a puppy out of anything essentially. It
Yeah,
pulls
that's true.
from.
Yeah.
It is such a neat thing. It's something I really want to explore yet. I don't know
Like
when.
it's called Wolf or something like that, the builder.
Yeah, something like that.
I
Yeah.
forget.
Yeah,
That's pretty cool.
Wolfland Builder. I tried to find an updated version of that for a Ubuntu version. I couldn't find it anywhere.
I got you. I'll hook you up.
Yeah, hook me up after the show on like Telegram or Discord, something, please. So anyway, because I was trying to do with TJ on Facebook, we were trying to do Unity and an XFCE build, but that fell short because for some reason Wolfland Builder, the version that I have on my flash drive, had a 4 gig ISO, and I don't know if it was because it was out of date or something. But yeah, if you can do that for me after the show, Prophetic, that would help a lot.
Excellent.
Anyway, yeah, that's
The feedback that you
Ubuntu
got
version will
from
be
the
coming soon.
trial, did it help you out?
Sorry?
The feedback that you got from the challenge, did it help you out?
Yeah, definitely. We will look into getting the wallpaper and the light DM fixed as soon as possible. So.
Excellent. I'll have something else for you. Like there's the PAMAC doesn't seem to launch in the KDE version. It gives me an error.
Oh, PAMAC doesn't work in KDE?
It doesn't seem to. Yeah, it says something to the
Okay.
effect of invalid source name. So,
invalid source name. Okay, I will look into that when I get a chance.
I like playing with Linux distributions. It's fun.
No, you're fine. Well, I will look into fixing PAMAC and KDE as soon as possible.
Excellent.
All right.
Well, very good. So thank you very much, Ben. I appreciate it once again for you, putting yourself out there to share with us your creation, and I wish you all the best in continuing it. And I'm sure you're gonna pop in now and again to tell us your updates and everything else that's going on. So I'd love to feature you in future community free pours, and so forth.
To answer Fratum about the M2 chips, we don't have an ARM version right now about that. So and I don't know if it works on a Chromebook. I know Linux can work on a Chromebook, so maybe, but I can't confirm or deny that.
All right, and then we will be doing more Linux distribution explorations. So if you have any suggestions, send them to suggestions@linuxsaloon.com, or you can tag Distro Exploration in Telegram, Matrix, Discord, and the Discourse forum. Or you can race off in your motorcycle, as what it sounded like I just heard someplace. So that's cool.
It's here, I think. Yeah, occasionally somebody guns it out there.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm
That was a closeout, logout sound for someone.
Yeah. He lives right outside the track. I mean, what can you do?
Where she goes. So for next week, we're going to have an open mic night. So bring your topics. Anything that you want to talk about is on the table for discussion, of course. So it'll be fun.
Well, depending on, I may or may not be around for that because I'm going to have a buddy that night possibly. So I don't know.
Well, you and your buddy can join us then.
All right, sounds good.
I don't care.
All right, that's fine. I'll
Cool.
let them know the show's happening.
All right, and then we also have we do our application appetizer night. So if you have an application, also suggestions at linuxsaloon.com. I would love to get some suggestions, or any news topics. It's up to you. I am thinking about maybe it's not next week, but what do you think about the idea of maybe exploring another desktop environment? Doesn't matter the distro, but maybe exploring a different desktop environment. So if you have any suggestions for that, share them on the Telegram, Discord, etc., or suggestions at linuxsaloon.com. That's my favorite way. I love email. Does anybody here love email? I love email. It's so simple.
That's why I included Thunderbird.
Yeah, I think email is fantastic.
Email is
I'll probably tell you on Telegram.
Okay, whichever is fine, because you may not want to share your email with me.
I mean, that's not a problem.
That's not too
I
bad.
mean, I wouldn't trust me.
Mail Spring is better.
Yeah.
Kmail is the best. So,
Thunderbird all day. Thunderbird.
Thunderbird's fine. I use K9 Mail, which is kind of like Thunderbird, sort of now.
Oh.
On
phone.
Android, it
Yeah,
is
I know.
Thunderbird Mail.
Yeah, well, it's still called K9 on my phone, so I don't know if I have to like upgrade
I
to
used that
Thunderbird.
back in the
Or
day.
now.
When
no.
Thunderbird
Yeah.
takes it over, would it be K10?
Ooh, that's a good
Mhm.
question. All right, so now we're going to go into our let's kind of open discussion here. So anywhere topics around the community or internet, anything that's just kind of have a free flowing conversation. No expectations on what to cover here. Just anything that's that you've read. So as I was going through StormOS, I was thinking to myself about bug reporting. So here in the panel here, who do you submit bugs? Is this something that you do on a regular basis when you stumble upon a bug?
I record myself submitting bugs.
You record yourself submitting bugs.
Yeah, and I post it on YouTube, and I have like 2 or 3 bugs where it's like file a bug with me, and I go through the process so that I can kind of talk through it and demonstrate how easy it is, but also sometimes how kind of disjointed the experience can be. Cough, Fedora, cough. And just to, even if it's like, someone's first time, they kind of have a visual thing of what to expect. But
cool. Do you have a link to your channel you can share with the class?
Sure. Let me
Yeah.
grab it.
I have to watch some of those because
I think it'd be valuable.
I've wanted to submit bugs sometimes, but I wasn't sure how to do it exactly.
I complain on Twitter. Isn't that the same thing?
The devs will read that, right?
Well,
Well, depending, sometimes it could be more effective, but
depending if your line is from Canada, yeah.
it depends. Do they use Bugzilla? In which case, use Twitter instead.
I think Bugzilla is fine.
Bug reports on GitHub.
Poor Nate. Poor Nate.
For the software I use, I just raise issues, and then most of the time either they get solved or they get closed. So some of the software I use, I regularly submit issues if I find any.
I'd be
And
fine
some
with either of
software-
those outcomes.
Huh?
Usually, like my bugs I report, like just I don't even know if they get closed; they just disappear. Like I got an email about 3 months ago from a bug that I filed for Gluster. It's a software-defined file system, and like I filed that bug like 3 years ago, and they're like,
Wow.
this was fixed in like a release that was like 10 releases ago. I'm like, oh yeah, thanks. Like,
Yeah.
So far I've submitted like I don't remember that many, but I've submitted like reports for OmePosh and other Astro and Vim, but like smaller projects, not like bigger projects. Again, some of the bigger projects have like bug triaging. That's also important. Like if you have time, you can help them do bug triaging. That's a huge issue. You see GitHub issues, it's like 500 open issues. It's very hard for the developers to keep track of them and to get things moving. I think I also raised some bugs in LineageOS too. Like all these things, some like are still open, they're not fixed, and some there's no response from developers. It's only the users. Okay, I also have this bug. I also have this bug. There's no response. Let's see.
The OpenSUSE Bugzilla, they're very responsive and things get fixed in OpenSUSE. I notice pretty quickly most of the time. So it's actually I think pretty handy because I can just start typing in whatever my bug is, and then it'll give suggestions as to what it might be, and so it's actually I think a really neat system. But you do have to there's a lot of clicks ahead of time, above to get to that point. But it's nice to see. So this way you don't have any, duplicate bugs reported. They do a pretty good job of that. And I do appreciate that about Bugzilla, at least the way OpenSUSE does it.
Yeah, there's nuances in like how whoever maintains the instance of Bugzilla. There's a lot of cool features you can turn on, turn off. Looks like when I was doing it for Bugzilla, there was some type of like issue with like their messaging and communication on top, like where to go to create your account, and then because I was getting like a SUSE account login,
yeah,
and I'm not an employee obviously, so I couldn't. So it was just. I think they fixed it after that, but it could be very frustrating because you're trying to do a good deed and then you're burning time, way more than you anticipated, and
You-
that could be discouraging.
You
but
probably did that when they
stay-
were transitioning from one login system to another, because
Yeah.
that was done a while ago.
Yeah.
But one thing I think is pretty important, or just as important as educating people on filing bugs, is educating people on where to go for their issue. Because if you're having like kind of a process issue or an operational issue of sorts, that kind of belongs more on like a discussion forum or mailing list, or kind of thing like that, like a discussion board.
Mhm.
Whereas like an actual issue with the software should go to bug trackers. And too often you'll see in like GitHub issues or in bug trackers of any kind, you'll see so many people that are just like, I can't get this to work, please help. And it's like, it's not really what this is for, right? If you need user help, you need like help administering something or whatever, that kind of belongs in like a discussion, like a user group forum, not in a developer bug report. And I think that too many people filing bug reports for things that are not actually bugs, but are actually like user issues,
Yeah.
kind of slows down the process of actually fixing real bugs, because you're having to like go through and sort the wheat from the chaff, as it were.
Sure.
That's why like having like a forums for user issues and like actual bug reporting is always a good way to go. Again, I report bugs which are generally like I've verified, like whenever you try to report a bug, they have a template, right? You have to actually reproduce it, like using their instructions. Only then it's a bug. And many of the user issues are pepcac. So I don't think bugs are a good place to report them. Like I agree with Adam.
There are people, at least, I don't know about all projects, but I know in the OpenSUSE project, there are people who do triage bugs. So if the bug is not a genuine bug, they do close it out, whatever. So that there's that process as well. But I think more of the problem is a lack of bug filing and just complaining. Nothing against you, Leo, and Twitter, but
Hey. So well for OpenSUSE, right? Like and I guess any kind of anybody that does the triage, is that something that gets done? So when you close the bug and you say, this is not something that we're going to deal with, it's not a bug. Is that something that you do? That the information to here's where you should go to get this looked at instead. It's definitely not here. So does that happen? Do you know?
I'm not sure. Well, I do know that like I have filed a bug before, and they said, well, that is upstream, so file it with the KDE folks. And so then I went and I filed it with KDE folks instead. So,
Well, like the PEBCAC issues, right?
Right.
That we mentioned a second ago. Do those get? Hey, go to the subreddit or go to the Discord or go to the forum or something and ask the same exact question and throw a link in there to get you started. I wonder if that's something that happens.
I don't know. I guess I haven't really looked to see on that side of things. So
I don't want to get too preachy about micro OS desktop, but like this is a one of the benefits of the concept, because if you have all of your apps as like Flatpaks and you're going direct to those maintainers, which a lot of times are the actual developers, that's a benefit there, because you don't have to play this hopping game. Because some people who say it's not here, you got to go there, the chances of them going there go down every time they have to hop to a new place. And so I think we're going to probably see a little more of that, trimming of not the fat, but like, just being more streamlined as people adopt Flatpak more and more. So that's an interesting angle to the whole conundrum.
yeah, I think so too. I have some concerns with that model as well, but I think for applications like the non-core pieces of the software,
Yeah.
I think being in Flatpak, I think is a better way to go. I'm back and forth on it. This is not necessarily a bug discussion here, but like I think that Plasma should not be a Flatpak. I think Plasma itself should be the system packages that they are, and everything, all the underpinnings should be system packages. But then Kden Live, sometimes I'm not sure, should that maybe be a should that be a Flatpak or should that be a system package? It's a very integrated piece of the Plasma desktop, I feel like, but maybe it's not better as a Flatpak. By the way, I've had better luck with the system packages than the Flatpak, because I do keep a Flatpak, an AppImage, and a use system packages of Kden Live. I like to try them all from time to time.
Yeah.
And there's just some quirks with the The Flatpak one will just like die on me, like just quit, just segfault error, and then just quit out. But the system package one had some other cleanup that the Flatpak didn't. And I don't know if there's
Curious, did you file a bug?
No, I didn't, because I just used the system package one. Because I was just no, I didn't. Way to get me on that one. So no, I didn't. Wasn't sure.
No,
if
well, you're busy doing like hours of editing, so that makes
Right.
sense, But that's the conundrum is like, do I have time to do this right now? And it's tough. It's not always easy.
Yeah, that is a thing, and that I think is one of the hangups for doing bug reports. It's probably the lack of time. Now I have found that the app image always seems to work, like over a Flatpak, and I don't know why that is, but I've never had the app image actually crash. But there you go. So there's
That's
that.
good to know.
So my order of, if I have problems with the system packages, I go to the Flatpak. If I'm with the Flatpak, then go to the app image. That's kind of my order
Interesting.
of how I fall down the trail on that one. I wasn't sure, like, for the Flatpak, was it a Flatpak issue, like a system issue, or was that a issue with how the Flatpak was put together? Because if the app image works, then maybe it's an issue with Flatpak.
Sometimes it's an issue with Flat Seal, which is this middleware almost between the apps and the host system. And I've seen things that not go well with the Flatpak, and then you see something on the forum, hey, do this in Flat Seal, and then you get access to whether it's dbus or whatever, to the specific host file, and voila, you're in. Especially when you're on Wayland, and the Flatpak is like expecting Xorg. So there's that. But going back to Bugzilla, I do think that there has to be an overhaul in bug reporting software, because Bugzilla does feel like a huge chore, and the UX seems very behind. And that matters when you're trying to get someone to complete from like point A to point B or Z, if it's that many steps to describe what's going on. But I don't know how you guys feel. Like, has Bugzilla itself been a deterrent in actually filing bugs? Because the one in Fedora, which is blending Red Hat, hosted instances and resources, was really rough.
I think any technical requirement to file a bug is already too difficult. But the thing that we have is you have really loud people in Linux that are against any and all forms of telemetry. But that is the thing that you would use to automate a bug report. So it's, rock and a hard place, right? Like, do you appease the people that are, coming at you on Twitter telling you that everything that you're doing is wrong because you've added some telemetry that is opt-in? It should be opt-out, but it's set to opt-in, right? And that's already set the entire Linux Twitter on fire. That's the thing. That's what needs to change. I think we should have. Oh no. But I think we should have opt-out telemetry for Linux to just. You don't need to file a bug report. It should be done for you on your behalf automatically. And if you decide that you don't want that to happen, maybe there's a checkbox during installation that says, I don't like developers, so I'm going to uncheck this and I don't want them to know what's going wrong ever. And then I will complain on Twitter. That's the way I want to deal with this, and that's okay. But telemetry, we need a little bit more. Make it opt out instead.
I know
or have packages which handle this, in which you can configure your settings easily, and you can change whenever you want.
Is it opt out or is it opt in?
Opt out, and you have to install a package if you want to. Like, it's installed maybe by default, but you can uninstall it if you want to.
Great. That's
opt
great.
out, and it's a place to configure some, not many knobs, but some knobs, in which you can change the level whenever you want. And that handles, so if you want to submit a bug, it can handle logs for you. Like, click a button, generate a link for developers or to get the info. Like, you can do these things. And again, it's a quality of life, and everyone wants to work on new features rather than this quality of life thing.
I think my problem with telemetry, and I'm one of those Leo, is
Let's box. Let's go.
Yeah. I don't know what the frequency is of communicating out. Like, I'm okay with, like, how often are they phoning home is really going to be the question that I'm going to ask.
What if they told you? What if
And
there's an
that's-
entire
and that's exactly
page
the
of the
thing.
installer dedicated to, hey, we're going to install some telemetry. And, you know, if you don't do anything, then here's what's going to happen. Every 7 days or every time something crashes, we're just going to send a bug report to the developers that has exactly what was going on with that application at that time.
Nate, that's what I was saying, right? App to handle it, like install a package, you tweak all these knobs there. Once every 14 days, once every 7 days, or whatever the heck. And whenever you have a crash, it gives you a link or it sends it to developers or whatever. So if you are in the forums, you can just send that link, etc. Like all these things, you can have like a centralized place.
Right, and I'm fine with that. But the question really is going to be, because like I don't have what I would call great internet. I have rural internet. So my internet is, you know, insert a 4-letter expletive that you can use to describe it. You know, I have this kind of internet.
Yeah.
Or maybe with a
But
Y.
have you
maybe
generally
5-letter.
seen the logs? Logs are text files.
Right.
Like even if they have 100,000 lines, it's not going to be more than 1-2 MB. It's
Right.
not going to be more than that. So 2 MB is fine. You're watching it like you're streaming. 1 second of what you're streaming is equal to hundreds of logs.
Sure.
Maybe even thousands of logs.
And that's fine, but there are some people who have even worse internet than I do, and that is a problem. Some people who have metered connections, and that is a problem. Where, I mean, every megabyte counts. So the thing about telemetry is, my concern is, I don't know, you know, as long as, I don't, even if like the intentions are good, sometimes these things get twisted into something that's not good. And as long as they're very clear, this is the information we're taking, and this is the information we're sending out, and this is the frequency of the information, and not in lawyer speak, but in very clear terms. Totally good with that. Like, I am fine with that. In fact, I turn on telemetry for some things because I want someone to know, you know, information about, you know, my system and everything else. So I am absolutely good with that. But if the telemetry is egregious and constantly pulling, like I have a pie hole on my my network, which sounds like a dirty word. I have a pie hole on my network, and the amount of traffic that's being blocked with analytics is just absolutely crazy. I don't have a lot of Android devices, but like from Google itself, I think like some 30. I don't want to say something wrong, but a third of my traffic is being blocked just because it's just analytics and telemetry and tracking and whatnot. And so that stuff bothers me. But if it's responsible telemetry, I'm good with that. But it's got to be a contract, or even like you can dig into it and say, you know, adjust your frequency or adjust this or that, whatever. If things are like really responsibly laid out to the user, this is what we're doing. This is our promise. This is our telemetry contract to you to help us make the software better. Totally good with that. But if it's really egregious, like there's some tech companies that are really pretty awful. So I want to avoid that, I guess, is really what it boils down to.
So 3 a.m. it can only send logs.
You know, while I'm sleeping, that's fine. You know, even if you specify, that'd be great too.
Yeah.
Okay, so
to your point,
the last 24 hours it's been 20,000 queries blocked on my network.
Yeah. And to your point, Nate, like even with good intentions, it could backfire. Sometimes, what if the telemetry? Now I can't even speak right. Telemetry has a bug, and it's pulling every minute by accident. With Sravan saying, like, if it's an app, it's easy to turn that off and fix it on yourself, but it's not always straightforward at its current implementation.
Yeah, I think. But yeah, I think if that were to help though with bug reporting somehow, some sort of telemetry, that would. I think Plasma kind of has a neat system on how they handle that. When you have crashes, you can report it.
Yeah, they have an escalating thing too, where you kind of like pick a radio button and it tells you how much information do you mind, sharing. I've seen that in the past,
and I do like how that works.
I will just say the escalating whatever is beyond what I had initially talked about, right? Like it's only when a program crashes, and it's only that you left the checkbox checked because it was checked by default during the installation, right? So we can add more, and I think that is the point where it needs to be opt-in. It needs to be, so if there's going to be like 4, right, where it's like no telemetry, just bug reporting style telemetry, and then more than that, it needs to be just bug reporting telemetry on by default, so that when the users, because I'm following the YouTube chat, and ooh, whoops, sorry about that, but if it's set to that by default, just bug reporting, but you can add more if you want to work for the developer, as was said, or you can choose none if you want to give absolutely nothing. I think that's okay, but the default needs to be just regular stuff, because as was said, I think Fratum said that was nobody's going to look, nobody's going to care, and they're just going to click next, right? So what we need to do is have a happy medium between the devs get information so that they can make their product better, but that you also still get your option to, nope, I'm a privacy hawk, I'm not going to do any of that, just click none. That's fine. But I don't want I just want that to be clear, right? Like just bug reporting stuff, all anonymized, absolutely no usernames or anything like that included in any of these reports that get moved over the wire, even if it's encrypted over the wire, right? That has to get stored somewhere. And what happens when that database gets breached? Because it's not if, it's when, right? So anonymized.
Right. And on that, Steve, so good to see your face here on Linux. I know life has been real busy for you, and it's probably been pretty haggering, all the things you've had to deal with. But I know you said there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Now, is this light an oncoming train? Is it?
Probably.
So, Steve, do you think that? What do you think about your telemetry on your Linux distributions? Are you concerned about telemetry? You have that fast Chicago internet, so you can have all kinds of stuff going on. You won't even notice.
I probably don't notice a lot to begin with. I don't have that good old Raspberry Pi hole on my internet.
Hey, watch your mouth. I'm just kidding.
So it's probably between my Roku TV and everything else, probably the world knows everything. But it's going to be always a tough talk here in the Linux world about telemetry, because the first thing that everybody's going to Microsoft, oh, and if you are truly wanting to help the developers, the builders of the system know about the machines you're on, that type of telemetry I'm fine with. Hey, here's my machine, here's when it was installed, this is what it's doing, fine, that's it. I don't have a problem with that. You constantly hear people go, well, that's just a start. Then you just don't do it if you're that type of person. I think that some of in order to get Linux to work on a lot more machines, give them that information. If you can do it once, turn it off after that.
Yeah, I just want to bring up, is it Fratum? How do you say that? He seems very concerned about. So thank you for your contributions in the chat, by the way. I do appreciate all the messages in the YouTube chat stream thing. But I understand, like, privacy is a huge thing, even for me. But I have to weigh privacy, and also I feel like I have a social contract to those that are creating the software for free. There's only so much I can do between, like, helping with documentation and stuff like that. I'm not good at a lot of things, so I feel like another way I can contribute is give them information, give developers information that helps them to make my experience better. But I'm also I'm not a big privacy hawk, but I do agree that if an application or a distribution is egregious in their telemetry, that would be bad. But I do appreciate your inputs and your insight on that. I think people, if a distribution was selling information and whatnot, I think they would get a bad review because from bad privacy policies. But I don't know that we've had a distro that's ever had serious, egregious privacy violating policies that I can think of. I mean,
There was one that was, but they were like mimicking Windows in terms of their look and feel. So the
Wait,
irony of-
Lindos? Are you talking about Lindos and
Oh, was that-
Linspire?
is that Windows FX or something like that? Linux FX, something
Yeah.
like that had an issue.
Oh.
Yeah, I think they corrected it though. But yeah, they get a bad review. 'Cause
Exactly. Yeah.
they get a bad review and then they
So-
fix it. So
Yep.
I think part of it is bad reviews are not is
The
really
end of the
not
world.
it's not it's then they fix it and they say, oh, I'm sorry, course correction. I think the zero defect policy of handling things, I think is a terrible way to go about life, because
Yeah.
you're going to have people make mistakes. Humans are fallible creatures. We're not we think we have a great idea and it's really a bad idea, and we don't realize it until somebody tells us. So got to keep that in mind too.
Run with a Dolphin says even Autodesk asks before sending data on AutoCAD crashes. So it's like there's no one has a monopoly on the ethics here.
And that's cool. I think that's the right way to do it, right? Is ask.
Yeah, I
But
think
what
so.
all I'm saying is make the checkbox like already checked, but ask. Let it be its own window.
So
It's
almost
own
opt out.
Yeah, its own step in the installer where in big bold text it's like telemetry, and then underneath it's like, hey man, we really need some help from you, like figuring out what's going on or whatever. This box is already checked. Hey, look at that box and make the box huge or something. I'm
Leo,
not saying that you
yeah.
need to like hide it from people. It doesn't need to be a clandestine thing underneath all the covers and nobody actually knows what's going on. No, make the checkbox big, make it explained. But the people that don't care, obviously, because they don't read the box, will just click next. Great. But the people that do care will read the box and uncheck the box and click next. But nothing happens without your consent.
I think Leo's is like talking about something that's really important too. Is a lot of times you think in these like dualities of like it's either this crazy shady way of doing it or this other way. And I think UX, which is something that developers in the Linux community can sometimes struggle with. Thank God it's gotten a lot better in the past decade. But the UX side of things, how we present things to users, is really, really, really a big part of the solution that
for sure.
does not get enough attention, and we should call that out a little more often.
Yeah,
Like,
and I feel like if you don't want to check the box, if you don't want to contribute at least that little bit, I mean, throw the developers $5 or $10 then. I think that's a pretty good alternative to maintaining full up 100% privacy. Is that will help too.
Leo, I think what most people want is free software which doesn't cost and which is always working well without bugs. They don't want to contribute. They don't want to file bug reports. They won't contribute to code or financially or whatever. It's like, it's free, it should work. No, that's not the philosophy of free software. Like that Fatim is saying, like, privacy is not the philosophy of free software. Free software is communally building software, which anyone can contribute, but you have to contribute. If you don't do anything and just use, you're not part of the free software. Just using free software is not enough.
I guess it very much depends on which definition of free you're talking, right?
Yeah, free as in beer or free as in liberty.
For most people, it's free as in beer, but it's in free as in freedom, and freedom is not always free.
Bingo.
I think both Don and Fratum are on the free as in freedom side of this, and not to disparage that at all, because I mean that's what started all of this. So,
but that doesn't automatically equivalent. There's no automatic equivalence to free/open and private. Like you can have it, like say an open source program, you can view the source of all day long and like, yep, checked every little character, it's all good. But if it interacts with any API on the internet, if it interacts with any service on the internet, if it sends email, it sends whatever, these various things are not necessarily free. And so you might be running open source software. Oh yeah, I got this open source Twitch client, but I'm still interacting with Twitch, which is not an open platform.
Yep.
Right. And the fact is, almost every piece of software we use today interacts with some external service on the web.
That's
And
true.
unless your entire stack from your machine to that server and back is free and open source and private, sorry guys, like there's a reasonable amount of privacy you can expect. Sure, everyone deserves a reasonable amount of privacy, but at some point that has to kind of give, because if it's all too private, if there's no data being given to developers, if there's none at all,
It ain't working.
then they're just like, I don't even know what to do. All I
Yeah.
can go off is Leo ranting on Twitter at this point.
Hey, but listen, those tweets are, I mean, those are $10 tweets, man. Seriously. So,
And they are
You
they are
better check my
amusingly written
tab.
too. So
I mean, this is not browser history being sent across the wire or anything.
Right.
It's crash logs. That's what it is.
Right.
Yeah.
And the other thing too is like people talk about privacy and whatnot. So if we remove this, and I think I've used this example many times, so forgive me, I'm going to pontificate again. If I walk out of my house and I walk downtown and I go into a store, people can see I'm walking downtown and going into a store. They can also see I'm on my phone, like spinning my Pokeball too, as I'm walking around town. But anyway, there's that. And I go into a store and I order a coffee, like in my downtown area. They know that I ordered a coffee, and I say thank you for the coffee. And let's say maybe it was a dark roast I didn't care for. I could tell them, it's a little bit on the dark side. I like it, but a little too bitter for me. So that's giving some constructive feedback, and they know to not recommend that particular one, but that's giving some feedback. You're interacting with, stores, and when you interact with the shopkeepers, people who, do a thing, right? Now, if that shopkeeper followed me all the way home and then into my house and kept watching as I'm drinking the coffee, I think that's a problem. And I think that there's a difference between a reasonable amount of feedback and stalking on the internet. And I don't know where that line is exactly, but I think that that line has to be discussed and drawn at some point. I don't know exactly where that is, but I think that's you have to differentiate those two ideas of feedback and stalking. And I think like some services do stalk. You say something, Swift?
I think that's a very reasonable idea to have, really, because it's one thing when you go and, like, for instance, the coffee shop you're talking about. You're choosing to go to the coffee shop,
which has a gym right
but
across
you
the
don't-
street. I just want to say.
Okay, but you don't have a choice as to who's in the coffee shop at the particular time that you're there. You don't know who they are or what they're about, what they're paying attention to, or whatever their intentions are, but you're there. And then when you're there, you're ordering what you want. And I mean, that's understandable because you're going into a different place versus someone being in your home. And now, like on the internet, where somebody is keeping tabs of everything that you're doing, that's uncomfortable.
Mhm.
I'll never
Right.
forget the first time I was on Facebook and I looked at some little thing that they had on there to find you or whatever. And then I saw the map on my device zero in to the library I was in, the section of the library I was in, and the room I was in. And it was really messing me up. And it just freaked, for whatever reason, it freaked me out so bad. Because like, look, I'm done. Because I don't like the idea of somebody doing that. That's all I want. I just want to, if I go outside, I'm expecting people are going to see me. But if I'm in my house, it's a whole different story. There's a certain amount of privacy that I'm still gonna want.
Right.
I don't want you standing in front of my door, standing there staring at me. I want you, I don't want you looking at my window.
Right.
But there's depending on the state, there's actually laws that neighbors could, like if they have a visual, you're in front of their house and you're on public ground, you can record their house. And if your window's open and you don't have shades, that's on you. That's not on the person. Now, if you're on their property peering, that's different. So I think there's some technical. I love
Yes,
these
Steve.
examples because they have great. They lead to the discussion. But these examples about the creeper at the window and all that, they don't get us to the nuanced details, which we really need to get to the bottom of. And it breaks down once you get closer to the technical side of the discussion.
I
It's
think
Gentoo. You need Gentoo. If you want to make sure that none of the software has the stuff, you got to go through all the software, got to go all through the code before you compile it and choose the correct flags to make sure that stuff that you don't want to be compiled into your software is not compiled into your software, and make
Yeah.
those decisions for yourself. That is drawing the shades and making sure absolutely everybody that could possibly peer in cannot peer in. I mean, the Audacity thing was a huge thing, right? And there's a compile flag to not even compile the telemetry in there. That's how folks that are telemetry conscious, that do not want it, but still want Audacity, need to handle that situation. Most of the distributions do that for you anyway, but still.
And I think Leo did a great job of saying what I was going to say. You draw the shades, you close your windows, you make sure music isn't too loud. Not watching a movie too loud so people can't hear what it is outside. But you are still going to have people that are going to try to peer in. I think this example still works because people are still going to try and poke around. And then, you put up fences, you beware of dog or, whatever.
A reasonable expectation of privacy.
Right.
Okay.
And I think
But
that
also, at the end of the day, your ISP, your cell phone provider, they have everything. Just straight up. You think they
Gmail.
don't? They do. I mean, sorry. Like, you're on the internet, you're connected to the internet in any way. That person who provides that interconnection has everything. VPNs, not really a solution. They can trace everything back to where you're. Trust me, it's if they want to find it, they'll find it.
Right.
So just chill.
But that's one. So when you're on the internet, I have very little expectation of privacy at all. Like when I'm going on the internet, I don't expect that. It's like when I go out of my house and I'm walking down the street, I'm on the internet essentially. I'm expecting that somebody somewhere is probably tracking me, and I can dart behind bushes and whatnot, right? I guess.
I know a lot of people are like trying to I know you, Nate, is just talking about leaving Google because you're doing it with, especially with the thing that you run with tutoring and you want to move away from the ecosystem.
Right.
I just find it ironic how a lot of people who talk about this stuff a lot and try to, are on YouTube and using Google services to consume these conversations, but yet feel so strongly about these positions when you're really, again, going back to this thing, like sometimes it's not even the app, it's the ad tech supporting the app or through the app. That's really the most egregious part of it. So it just really, if people feel that strongly about these things, it's just, you really have to support those projects a lot more for it to get traction.
Yeah, I think that's a really big part of it, right? Like
Okay.
on the dev side of things, you cannot just grab some random off-the-shelf thing to allow folks to just send you random stuff and not configure it, not go into it. Like there's fine print on both sides, right? Like someone going through the installer, unchecking the box, you got to do that, right? But also on the dev side, you also have to make sure that the things that users are going to be sending you are privacy respecting, are anonymized, do not have anybody's name, don't have anybody's information. You're not accidentally sending an entire 6 months long Firefox browser history as well. So it's a two-way street. Both sides of the equation need to be informed, but it's tough. It's hard.
Most people don't care.
I think like where I draw the line is I don't want my operating system itself to be collecting data and sending it to somebody is really what it boils down to. When I go and do things on the internet, I have a very limited expectation of privacy. Just because the windows are tinted on my vehicle, I don't expect it to be completely, obfuscated. People can still see I'm driving it. The issue for me is when I have software that's running locally, I don't want it to violate the trust that I have. That's really what it boils down to. Like Telegram, I have zero expectation that anything I say on Telegram is private. Zero expectation. I have zero expectation anything on Discord is private. I have no expectation anything I say on Zoom or anything that's put on YouTube. I may as well be shouting on from my front steps to my neighbors right now about Linux and privacy, and they wouldn't care. But
I guess what I'm getting at is like, why are we so forgiving for corporate overlords and make compromises by using these things. Yet we give open source projects the hardest of times when they're putting out this work oftentimes for free or low to no money, and we can't afford a couple telemetry.
Dude, you are 100% right.
It's because they can. Like small developers, actually, you have direct access to them. You can shout at them. But at companies, they don't care. It's all because they can, and their voice is heard.
Yeah. Toxic. It's almost toxic relationships.
We're sitting here on Zoom chatting, right? No one's like, whatever. Like Zoom's awful, blah blah blah. But like, we're gonna sit here and be like, oh, Ubuntu's terrible. They wanna know what my screen resolution is. Like, can't have that.
Well,
God forbid.
No, they can't find out I have a 768p laptop.
And
no one can.
I want to make sure I'm not giving any kind of like logical.
Yes, and I want to make sure I'm not like I'm not
logical,
oversimplifying what your position is. I'm just talking about like in general. I don't want to make it seem like I'm oversimplifying what you're saying, because you are explaining your nuance and the context.
Yeah, I'm trying to say, like, for me, what I truly believe is, when I go on the internet, I use YouTube services. They know, I realize they're tracking everything when I say, "Ooh, I like this video," or "Ooh, I don't like this video," which is very rare.
It's like you're going outside versus being.
I'm going outside. I'm going into that store, and I'm telling them, I'm giving them a rating. I am fine with letting, if YouTube tracks every video that I watch, and they do, I expect that, and I don't hold that against them, because I understand that that's part of my contract with them. But if I were using Ubuntu or OpenSUSE, which I do use OpenSUSE, and I have one machine that has Ubuntu, and they're telling, and Ubuntu is getting, or OpenSUSE is getting, like, knowing every, like, keeping track of when I record my financial stuff and pay my money. If they're able to extract that information, that's a violation of privacy.
I don't think they should be able to do that at all.
Yeah,
I
think no one's really thinking that far.
But what I'm saying though is I want to try and delineate where I think that privacy matters. When I go into my home, when I'm in my own system, when I'm on doing my thing on my computer, I think that's separate. And that's why I say, like, for telemetry, I would like to know what they're saying, because I would like the developers at OpenSUSE to know that, yes, I use Plasma, yes, I use Audacity, yes, I use Kdenlive, yes, I run Zoom. I'd like them to know that so they can make allowances for that when they work on the systems. But do I want them to know what I'm doing on Zoom, what I'm doing on Firefox, what I'm doing? That I think can kind of cross the line a little bit. And I'm not exactly sure. Again, I don't know where that line should be. I personally don't. But I want to give people who make my ability to use my software, to use the software and use my hardware the way I want to give them as much feedback as possible without crossing a line. I don't know where that line is, I guess. And I think the discussion is trying to find that line and making sure and that line might adjust, from time to time. And so I don't want to say it's a solid, hard line, because I don't even know exactly where that line is.
I'll use one more example, like because we're like using examples, like TikTok is gross.
Yes.
Yeah, just probably the worst examples.
And the content's also pretty gross too.
And here's the thing I want everyone to understand. Just because we're okay with that doesn't make it right or good. So that should not be a barometer that we use for the in-house things when I went back to it. So it's almost like you're going out your house. I'm okay with people spitting at me, calling me names. When I go outside, I love being disrespected outside. But when I go inside my house, and the thing in the house just barely does a peep, I want to be mindful and I go crazy on that, or be very extra on that. And it's just that logic going outside versus inside, that logic kind of flows. But when you translate it to the reality of what these ad tech companies are doing versus what open source software is doing, it's like night and day. So even when we sign up and say we're okay with that contract, the extent in which they are lording over us, that data relationship, the tyrannical way they're doing it, versus when we go inside the house, is so oceans apart that I think it's time for open source communities to ease up. That if you're willing for the sake of that social contract, if you're willing to go through that and expose yourself to that on the outside, ease up a little bit on the inside. Then, like, let it go a little bit, because these people are actually caring about us as users, doing a lot of amazing things. And they might, okay, look, cool. You want to know how my apps that I use? Great. GNOME is doing some of that stuff. Let's give them more. Why not? I mean, to quantify how long I use Firefox versus the GNOME calculator app, I don't care. Take that too. Like, let's be a little more gracious and giving, because the seesaw, the scales are so imbalanced. Like, something has to give.
And that's why I think just like a transparent, this is what we want. This information will be helpful to us. Just letting us know exactly what that is, and this is what the report looks like. I can't remember what it was that it was an application that I used, and it actually says, "Do you want to see what it's being sent?" And you could read the entire report of what's being sent.
Ubuntu's telemetry thing does that.
Yep. And if I can see that,
do it. 100% do it.
Yeah.
So I think Leo's point is that we have the answers. I think there's not. I think some developers are afraid to go there because of the optics. They don't want the drama sometimes, and I think the community has to. I hate to say it, but grow up a little bit. And yes, everything you're asking for, Nate, about transparency, all that is, but I think we have to like kind of welcome it a little more and push for a little more.
But even to that point, I agree. But the thing is, though, there will always be a distro. That is the amazing and the vice of open source software. There will always be a distro that absolutely disagrees with what you're saying, what I'm saying right now, and they will absolutely compile the software in a way that is the antithesis of what I'm saying. There will be zero telemetry compiled into any of the software that they add to the repositories that users can install. And the users that absolutely do not want telemetry, that are privacy hawks enough to have looked into the software enough, to have looked into the EULAs, to have looked into the telemetry and everything, will gravitate toward those distributions. And I encourage that. That is a fantastic thing to do. That is the entire point of free software, open source software, and the open community that anybody that is in the Linux orbit, Unix orbit, BSD orbit at all subscribes to in the first place.
We always have tails.
Exactly. There will always be a distro that will be a niche for the people that just opt out, 100% opt out every single time. Do not even ask me. It is always opt out. And I think that's a great thing. It's absolutely fantastic. But for the people that don't care, or for the people that would like to not have to think about it too much, I don't want to file a bug report, man. I don't want to go through the effort that I need to go through to be able to tell you that your software is broken in this way. So just take it. Just take the error log. Don't waste 15 minutes of my time trying to figure out how to do this, the process. First off, I got to create an account, and then I can submit this and that and give you all this information. Just take it. Just take it. I'm happy with that. That's okay. You don't have any of my personal information. Just take it.
Good point.
And I do want to say, I think distributions should, or software developers should, they should experiment with it. I mean,
Agreed.
Ubuntu got a lot of flack for things that they did unnecessarily. There's just flack for what they things that they tried. And I appreciate that they experimented and tried different things. Sure, they irritated some people. Got it. That's going to happen. But at least they tried some things. And then when you try things, you discover what doesn't work. And I think they did a great job of it. I hope they continue to experiment and do things that might irritate people because, well, I mean, so what?
Well,
and that's how we grow. That's how we make things better is through that experimentation. I mean, they did have GM did make the Corvair. They learned from that, right? So Steve probably had a Corvair. Steve, do you have a Corvair? No, okay, that's too bad. And anyway, so and probably nobody knows what that is. I'm probably old manning here on this one. Look it up, the Corvair, neat car. I thought it was a neat idea. Too bad it didn't fly. Actually, it did fly.
Engine in the trunk.
Yeah, that's right. Air cooled. And
it looks pretty good.
I think it's a cool looking car. But anyway, maybe this Corvair blew up. Yep. And on that, I don't. Swift did anything else? Because we do need to probably wrap this thing up here. I'm getting notification from someone.
Y'all let me talk too much. I'm sorry.
No, it's good.
Yeah,
love
same
it.
here. My bad.
No, it's cool, but I do think, going to the point that Prophetic was saying is that in the Linux community, there's a tendency to overreact when stuff happens without trying to collect, okay, well, what exactly are you doing? Why are you doing it? And can I opt out of it? Once you're properly informed, then you can let them know how you feel and then go from there.
Yep.
Bingo.
And on that,
I did track some bugs this week through Telegram. Contacted Ben, said, "Hey, SISO doesn't boot up." So I got them coming out in a minute. So, and then I ended up submitting a couple of things that you could use too. So
that's awesome.
Script and an NRC file. So
Yeah, benefits of the smaller distros. You can have direct access to dev, bypass Bugzilla.
And I think that's the thing, though. The ultimate goal should be to help everybody improve all the things that rub up against our world. And so I think that's really the point of bug reporting. I think that should be the point of telemetry. I think that that should be to try and help out your community, make things better. So, well, it is that time for last call. So, gotta close up the old saloon here. So, Rick, you are doing streams on Saturday now, right?
yeah, Saturday at 11 o'clock Mountain Time, which turns out to be 1 o'clock Eastern Time and noon Central Time. So,
well, I think I mostly care
I'm,
about Eastern because that's where the civilization is.
Right. That's where everybody always lists Eastern first. I was wondering about that, and some people don't even mention Pacific Time. So
yeah,
we have Mountain Time. I'm just kidding.
Mountain Time is often forgotten.
It is.
Yeah.
That's because
I usually just list Eastern and Central Time, and then they leave all the rest for people to figure out.
Yeah.
So.
Well, excellent.
But anyway, I'm thinking about doing an app this coming week. I'm not sure what app I'm going to do, but I'm going to do one. Might do Shotcut or something like that. Now, since I'm somewhat experienced in editing with Shotcut, and I've actually developed a little graphic animation on it that I can show people how I did it.
Oh, very cool. That should be fun.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, excellent. So 1 p.m. Eastern. So Mark, the Atlanta Linux Enthusiast Group. Somehow I had it in the little notes wrong again, but it's the Enthusiast Group.
No, you're right. So the ale.org is where you can find out more information. We are online. We have an online meeting Sundays at 3 p.m. Eastern to 6 p.m. There's no set agenda. We just try to help folks out with Linux, and anyone's welcome to join. Again, you can find out more information at ale.org.
And I had the opportunity to join the Atlanta Linux Enthusiasts, and we ended up talking about training chickens. I don't know how that related to Linux, but nonetheless, that sent me on a rabbit trail or a chicken trail, learning about how you can train chickens to peck at certain colors and shapes and actually recognize that. I think that's pretty wild.
That URL is amazing, by the way. Just had to throw that out there.
Thank you. Yeah, we try to stick on Linux and open source software, but sometimes the conversation goes elsewhere.
It goes completely off the tracks. Yep, that's for sure.
Lots of people with different experiences is always good, but yeah, we do try to stick with Linux and helping folks out. So bring your Linux questions, and we have that meeting online every Sunday. So if you can't make it this Sunday, make it some other time.
Yeah, usually I'm not able to make it, but I did make it once, and I thought it was lots of fun, and I appreciate the fun I got to have while doing that for sure. All right, Steve, tomorrow you are starting at what is it? 8:30
8 Central.
Oh, 8.
6 Mountain. 9 Eastern. 3 o'clock somewhere else in the world. Going to talk about OBS 28.
Oh, nice.
See, I haven't streamed on it yet, so we're going to see what happens there.
It's amazing.
Yes, and some cool stuff. some updates, some other studio updates. Rick, you said something about Shotcut. You know, a new update just came down from the Flatpak today. They've changed a few things.
That's exciting.
I checked
It
that
was
out.
because I was in the middle of it. I'm working on editing one of my older streams from the history of Linux, history of Peppermint, and I'm going to post that out. And in the middle, it kind of froze on me, and then when I finally got it back up, it said there's a new update. So I ran Flatpak update and a couple of different things in there. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, cool.
Nice. Well, excellent. So tomorrow I'll be watching you as I'm making pancakes, as I'm doing bacon tomorrow too. So it's from a pig that I bought. So I got a lot of bacon from that. Destination Linux is off tomorrow. They're taking a week off. But Linux user space, you guys are never off. Or maybe you're always off. I'm not really sure which.
We take our like spring summer break thing or whatever, but then we come back and then pile on a bunch of history to you that stuff you never knew.
And so very excitingly next week you're talking about Alpine.
That is correct. Dan just informed me that it does not meet the Netflix test, which is, fire up Firefox, install what you need to install, and then run Netflix. It doesn't.
Oh.
so hey, but we'll have more to say about it than that.
Yeah. How fast is it? Like initial impressions now?
It is fast. It's fast because it's lean. That's the most important thing. Like it's as slow as you make it. So, hey.
Oh, I do want to plug one OpenSUSE thing. So the OpenSUSE ALP prototype is being released this week. That ALP is the Adaptive Linux Platform. I think it's the future of Leap. I was actually asked to plug that by someone in the OpenSUSE community, and I forgot. So there we go. Make sure you check that out. It's interesting. It looks like it's like a merger, I would say, of the MicroOS and OpenSUSE Leap projects in a way. I think this probably the future of OpenSUSE on the enterprise side of things. So I think that's pretty cool. So thanks for reminding me, Prophetic. You are a great man.
I try.
I'm in a podcast called Linux Out Loud. We talked about open source photography, and it'll be released on Wednesday. And also I do things at cubiclenate.com. Last time I released just a very short little thing. It was mostly for me, but doing message list tabs in Kmail. It's pretty darn it's important for me. I use them all the time. Makes my ability to jump around between boxes and filtered boxes and everything else a little bit quicker. You can check that out. cubiclenate.com.
Can you export your Kmail settings?
I'm not sure.
Like
I've
config?
never done it. Maybe.
That'd be interesting because I'm sure you got like a superset of like all kinds of cool stuff on your Kmail.
I wouldn't say it's a superset. I would say it's a mediocre set. Linux Saloon is part of the Tux Digital Network. Check out more great shows at tuxdigital.com. I want to thank you all for being part of the conversation, both the Zoom meeting and the YouTube stream. Well, I should say also Twitch, since it's streaming on Twitch as well. I got to change that. And also, everyone watching the show after the fact, I want to thank everyone involved in making the Linux and open source tools possible for us to not only have this conversation, but also to have fun and enjoy our technology. Linux truly puts personal back in a personal computer. Thank you for stopping by. Be sure to tip your developers and be sure to Linux responsibly. Until next time, see yous.
Take care, y'all.
Take care, everybody.
Bye. Good night.
I was just checking the volume on YouTube. I gotta say that it's too quiet. I just checked it on my laptop here. It seems to be fine. So I don't know where the problem is. So sorry. I have a cat in here, and I don't know why. I don't know how the cat got in here.
We have one too.
Yeah, but I don't allow animals in my studio here.
No worries.
There's nothing to hunt here. I don't know what she's doing. Anyway,
Nor do I.
I'll cut that out.
So again, I'll say that.
Yeah, go ahead.
And how am I sounding? Okay, I haven't recorded these for a while.
You're a little bit on the quiet side, but if you want to make yourself a little bit louder, that would be Great for my reduced
How's
editing
this?
time.
Any better?
It's better, but it could be louder. Or maybe I'm going deaf. Or maybe
How's
Leo's
this?
just way louder than you.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Maybe. Maybe not. I will look into
All right.
that. I'll get
I'm
back
sorry,
with you
messed
on
up.
that one. No, that's fine. I'll cut this out. We've been
Try puppy.
Puppy's good. There was no Thomas this week.
I miss my puppy.
I want to know what his stance is on telemetry. Okay, I need him to add some, and then we'll just work our way back.
We'll splice it in the editing.
That's all I need. Just imagine how good Draugr could be if he knew when things went wrong, even when people didn't tell him.
Yeah. Would be fun, right?
Well, I'm glad we
Went
solved the
wrong
whole
from the
telemetry
beginning.
thing.